welcome to Watch Symposium. I'm Austin. This is the third custom video for Nick talking about his Rolex GMT Master 1600. It's an R serial from 1988, one of the first 16700s. It's got the open sixes, open nines on the date wheel, which are pretty cool. And let's talk about the value of this watch. All right, so he says, what do you think it may be worth? Give me a price range. Unfortunately, I wasn't sold the watch with box or papers. I have skinny but wide wrists at around 7.5 inches. I like larger watches, so haven't worn this watch much since purchasing my other two larger watches, and was wondering if you thought of it as a keeper. I might pass it down to one of my sons at some stage or just keep it as an investment. Your thoughts? I also have a Sea Dweller 43mm, the 50th anniversary, a proper 50th from 2018, so that'd probably be with the Mark I dial, nice, which I prefer to wear, and recently purchased a Tudor GMT Pepsi, which I think fits much better on me. All right, so he likes bigger watches. One of the best things about the 16700 is the size. I think they're the perfect size, and they're about 0.5 millimeter thinner than the 16710s, which is really cool. Just knowing that fact kind of makes me want one. But it's a really nice watch to wear, but to each his own. He likes bigger watches. All right, so what's the watch worth? Okay, no box, no papers. I think it's got a replacement insert. Not a big deal, but it's a factor. I would say it's worth about 15,000 USD. Now you might be saying, hey, that's about 1,500 more than I think is worth. Well, here's the thing. When you price a Rolex, you have to tack on what you think is going to be worth soon. I mean, that's the way things work here in Japan. They price Rolex watches for what it's going to be worth in like a year, all right? And I get it. That's the vicious cycle that drives up the prices. But people buy them anyway. So look, it's probably worth about 13, 14,000, but I wouldn't value it at any less than 15,000 USD because of the potential. You have to factor in the potential. All right. Now, should you keep it? In my opinion, yes. I mean, think about what you paid for it. Think about what it's worth now. Okay, realistically, what could you sell it tomorrow for? 15,000? Probably not. That's what I think it's worth. You could probably flip it tomorrow for 13,500 USD. All right. That's what you could get for it. All right. It's going to maybe take a while before you could actually get 15,000 for it, but that's what I think it's worth. All right. So think about that and think about what you paid for it. And then ask yourself, do you like seeing that price rise there? How do you feel about that? That should guide whether you want to sell it or not. I know you don't like wearing it, and that's kind of unfortunate. If you did, I would say certainly keep it. If you don't like wearing it, that's a good question. The thing is, I think it is acting like an investment. You might as well hold on to it. If you do sell it, my guess is you're going to look at the price in 15 years and think, I wish I had it because now I'd like to sell it. So if I were you, I would hold on to it, and I wouldn't sell it now because I think there's a lot of room for the price to go up. In 5 years, this is going to be going for more than 20,000 USD. That's my prediction, unless the bubble pops. How could that possibly happen? All right, well, is Rolex going to flood the market with the pre-ceramics, not the pre-ceramics, the ceramics, and then that's going to affect the pre-ceramic market? I don't think so. I mean, the pre-ceramic market, man, that's set in stone. There's only so many 16700s out there, so I think it's a really safe investment. The danger is that the younger generation, people are just going to say, you know what, these pre-ceramic watches suck. I don't think that's going to happen. I think these watches are very classic design, like a pair of jeans, and really cool, arguably cooler than the ceramic pieces. Again, an arguable statement, but vent in the comment section. So I wouldn't sell it. I would hang on to it. Now, the question is, what should you do? Should you just stick it in the safe and be done with it? Well, I think there's some things you can do to increase the value of the watch, and it could be kind of fun, and it could be sort of like, a scavenger hunt. All right, so you might think about adding a Jubilee bracelet through RSC. It's going to be expensive, but it would increase the value of your watch. It'll set you back about 1,500 USD, but that's going to give you that bracelet option, and it could be kind of nice, and maybe you might like wearing it a little bit more like that. So I would think about doing that. But again, if you don't like wearing the watch, maybe not, all right? Because that's going to mean laying out that 1,500 for that bracelet. But again, it's going to sort of increase the value when you do sell it to have those two bracelets, all right? Bezel insert, all right? Try to source an original bezel insert. Easier said than done, but if you got the money, you can make it happen, all right? At the end of this video, we'll look at some bezel inserts for sale here in Japan. Have you ever seen a $10,000 bezel insert? I have. That's crazy stuff. I mean, I wouldn't even pay $10,000 for a blueberry insert, although a blueberry insert is certainly worth more than 10,000 USD. All right, so that could be something kind of interesting, but kind of difficult. I would look for fading. I would look for fat font with the serifs, or that other insert that I talked about that has the thin font, but the wider too, all right? Again, look at that second video in regards to that. You're gonna want a Pepsi or an all black. This model never came with a Coke, so I would do that. I would scour eBay and go on the hunt for an original insert. That could be very fun. And I would also think about getting service papers. You don't have papers or box. And by the way, let me just interject. I would source a box for it. All the manuals, you can buy those things kind of piecemeal, kind of put together as much as you can, a set to make it as full set as possible. You're not going to be able to get the original papers, but the second best thing, service papers. All right, so here's the thing. If you take the RSC and they change out those hands, that's a disaster, okay? So if I were you, when it needs a service, I would take it to RSC and I would ask them, I would say, I don't want the hands replaced, okay? And if they agree to that, fine. Now, sometimes things happen, and during a service, the tritium cracks, and they cannot use those hands on the watch anymore. That would be a PR disaster to give you back a watch with cracked tritium, even if that's what you wanted, because all it would take is you going on social media saying, look at how this watch came back to me, and it would just be a PR nightmare for them. So they don't want that. But if you can get the hands back, then in the event that they have to change them, I think that's sort of a second best thing. I mean, it's always better to have the original hands on the watch versus in a box. But if they say we might, and this happened to me when I took my 14060 to RSC, they said we might need to change out the hands, and we'll have to tell you after the fact that we did it, and bye-bye tritium hands, and you'll be paying for the new ones. And I just had to cross my fingers that everything would work out, and thankfully it did. But if that tritium had cracked, then I would have gotten Luminova hands and I lost my tritium hands, and that would have been a disaster that I probably never would have recovered from mentally. All right, so these days you can pay 40% of the price for certain parts, get them back. So if that were to happen, then I could at least get back those tritium hands. But again, if they're cracked, that's not that great, and they're sitting in a box versus on the watch, and that's not as ideal. So tread lightly. But see, the whole reason I'm telling you this is because if you can have it serviced one time through RSC, you can get the service papers, which are a second best option to having original papers. And here in Japan, at least when they're selling watches, service papers, they charge about as much as they do for the original papers. Now, if you're trying to sell them a watch, I'm pretty sure that they're going to lowball you, because original papers are much more desirable than service papers, but it's better than nothing. So I would inquire at RSC about a sympathetic service when the watch needs it, all right? So you can get those service papers. But if they hint that you might lose your tritium hands, walk, go, run away, all right? So that's what I would do going forward. I would hang on to the watch and I would make that box happen. Original insert. I probably, for you, if you don't like wearing the watch, probably wouldn't do the Jubilee bracelet, all right? But you might, okay? I don't know if in the future they'll run out of those bracelets, and it might be nice to have, pre-ceramic GMT with both of those bracelet options. And you could even source, the black insert as well. Again, try to get an original one, right? Be careful there. And think about servicing the watch one time to get those service papers, but tread lightly. That's what I would do. I would hold on to it. If you do all those things, or if you don't do all those things, check out what this watch is going for in 2027, all right? I think you'll be happy that you held on to it. Guys, let Nick know what you think about his 16700. It's a beautiful watch. I love this reference, all right? I really kind of want one, probably last thing I need, but it's a really cool reference, and he's got a great watch. Nick, thank you so much for this custom video request. Guys, if you want a custom video, check out the description. You can see how you can make it happen. Thanks for watching. Take care. See you next time. All right, as promised here, those inserts. No $10,000 insert in this group of them, but it raises the question, what would I pay for an original insert less than 500 USD? But it really depends on how much you want it, Nick. An anecdote, just yesterday, I saw a fat font Coke insert on eBay. It was 400 USD. I threw out an offer of 200 USD. In about 5 minutes, I got cold feet, withdrew the offer. But 200 USD would be a great price for an original insert.